So here you see, now I put the orgone pieces, the shungite in the orgonite puck and the shungite orgonite pendant in front of the magnet, the powerful magnet that creates the EMF effect, right? Now, I'm going to show you something. So when I move the sensor up, notice, hopefully you can see that, nothing stays in the green, very safe, right? But let's say I move it past those pieces, right? What happens? Closer to the magnet, you see? But if I move it in front of them, what happens? It'll block it. It reduces it, right? Even you see it drop. It even dropped very low, right? Now move the sensor near it, right? So you see the pieces. See if I can get that. So you see, I put it right up to it. You see what happens. So that sensor is right there, right? It's blocking the EMF generated by the magnet, right? So what happens is you notice that what we see is that the magnetic field of the magnet replicates electromagnetic radiation, right, to the sensor. So that's good. So then we can use that to test the orgone, right, Orgonite, to see if it's actually blocking. But what it does is, so let me explain. So what it does is, it what happens is when the magnetic field basically vibrate, when the magnetic waves go through the orgonite, what it does is it vibrates the orgonite at a frequency, it changes the frequency of the orgonite. And then the orgonite starts to vibrate and it turns into a sponge and it starts to absorb the radiation. The radiation or the frequencies. It changes the frequency and absorbs it. It turns into a sponge. So let me show you what I mean. So let's move this past these, right? Over. So let's say that's a barrier, right? So let's move it past and see what happens. Right? So, so as I move it past the barrier, right? Boom. You see what happens, right? So let's move it back. Right? Moving it back in front of the orgonite. I'm sorry. Try to get it as close on this side. Now you see I got it super close, almost the same distance, right? Notice it's not registering. So what happens is once the field, once the, I guess I want to say the waves, the electromagnetic waves, is that the right term I think I want to use? Um, Go through and hit and I guess the neurons, particles, waves, once they go through and hit the orgone and it vibrates at a certain frequency, it then reacts as a sponge and then it starts to absorb the waves. And that's what it does. See? So I wanted to kind of show that, right? And then, like I said, so now also the reason why magnets are good for your orgone, when you're orgonite, when you're creating, I'm sorry, when you're creating orgonite, and so you can see that the shungite which is a natural rock, performs just like man-made orgonite when it's made correctly. So this is man-made orgonite, and this is man-made orgonite, right? An orgonite pyramid, basically, right? We'll call it orgonite pyramid. And this is shungite, a natural rock. But the shungite performs just like a man-made. Now this has crystals and copper and metal. And it's not that great, but I try to prove it, but it actually works. And this is not that great, but it works. I can make better orgonite, and I have. I'm gonna make some and show it to you. Now, so we see that these actually work. Now, what also we learn is that the magnet. Why is the magnets an orgonite, uh, and why is it significant? Well, now I added this to the outside, but I actually, when I make orgonite, I put magnets in my orgonite, right? Now, and I'm gonna make a batch, and I'll show you. Now, why is it significant? Well, what we learned was that the magnets, we already learned that they create. I showed you they replicate electromagnetic waves. So let's do it again. Boom. I showed you that magnets in the orgone is absorbed. Look, these are right here, and right here, right? But they absorbing the electromagnetic frequency, right? Let me move these. Boom, look at that. I moved them out of the way and look what happened. Look what happened. Off the charts, right? I moved these out of the way because they were sitting like here and one was on this side, right? And so when I moved them like out of the way, like a couple of feet away, then you notice, right, the difference, right? Let's reset it. Boom, look at that. And it doesn't go down. Now what you'll see is when your orgonite is sitting in front of the device, and I've also used other material. I've used a silver bar to see if, like I took a silver bar I had, it's around here somewhere, and I did the same thing and I like put it in front of it. It didn't have the same effect. It had a slight effect, but not the same effect as like shungite or orgonite. So I've used different material to test my theory to make it scientific, okay? You know what I mean? I've used other things. Here's another piece of orgonite that I have. A little travel piece that I take sometimes. Now, so now look at that. Look what happened. As soon as I put this over here, I put that near the magnet, right? What happened? It began to drop, you see? So what was I? Okay. So what we find is that I was showing how, look. So I was showing how the magnet, oh yeah, I know where I was. Okay, so the magnet it replicates electromagnetic radiation, okay? Which is good because you can use it to test, right? It creates an intense blast of electromagnetic radiation. It imitates it, the magnetic waves, right? So therefore, you can use it. Now, what we find, that's what I want to talk about. What we find is that the electromagnetic waves created by the magnet, it sets off the sensors, as you can see. This is an EMF sensor, right? And it sets it off, right? That's what we see, right? You see that. I'm not making this up. So, right? You see the readings. Now, because now what it does is, how does it help your orgone? Let me move that. Right? Notice I moved it, boom, it dropped. See? So we see that the magnet replicates electromagnetic frequency. You see? Even though the magnet is not electric. Now, this should only react in proximity with electronic devices, but it reacts in proximity with magnets. You see? So what we find is that now, why is that significant to orgonite? Because what the magnet does is, and magnets in your orgonite, what it does is it forces the orgonite, the magnetic waves go through the orgonite and it comes from the bottom. People say it comes from the top out. It doesn't. It comes from the bottom up. Because we find that from biogeometry in it, right? In the shape of the pyramid, like the pyramids in Egypt. The pyramids in Egypt they're going to be destroyed, but the pyramids in Egypt are power devices that tap into the earth. So the earth is like a big sponge. Like imagine this is the earth, right? And so the pyramids in Egypt basically tap into that and they push the power up from the earth through the pyramid to the top, up, and then it's Tesla technology. And then the spaceships can fly across, right? So the spaceships will fly across, right? They'll stop above just like a wireless phone charger, right? So the spaceships will fly over the pyramids, charge, and then fly off like that. So that's what the pyramids in Egypt do. The pyramids in Egypt are power generators. They're not tombs. That's a lie. But they were built by aliens. Um, what you would call in the biblical story the Antichrist, Satan, the devil, right? That's where the pyramids come from. So, but the technology is solid. It's just advanced technology, right? And now what we find with the magnet, so back to the magnet. So the magnets, what it does is, because we see the electronic frequency created, what happens is the magnet it pushes the, I don't want to say this, the electromagnetic waves or the magnetic waves from the magnet pushes into as it vibrates the orgonite. It causes it to form it causes it to react as a sponge, right? And that reaction from the waves going up and through it turns it into the sponge. Not turn into a sponge, but you know what I mean, right? It causes it to react like a sponge. So the magnet, what it does is it constantly sends waves into the orgonite, right? Creating a reaction, and where the orgonite then stays in state, just and then absorbs any type of EMF, right? And then starts to absorb the EMF, right? So the magnet, the vibrational waves, or the electromagnetic waves, vibrate the orgonite, causing the reaction that allows the orgonite to then start to absorb any type of radiation, any type of electromagnetic radiation, right? Or waves. That makes sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I explained that. So I don't want to make this too long. I just wanted to kind of go over, because I've seen a lot of misinformation on Orgone and Reich. I'm a student of Wilhelm Reich, and I've studied Wilhelm Reich. And so, and I've seen these things talked about. And so, I've seen very little scientific presentations on Orgonite and how it functions, how to test it. And so I wanted to go over what I've found in my 10, 12 years of studying these materials, magnets, crystals, testing, things, testing devices. There was very little information on, because Orgone, Organite, etc., Orgone energy, chi, call it what you want. So because there's been very little information on it, it's been hard to figure out what to do, right? So how to make it, what actually works, shungite, is shungite legit? Is it legit? Now, my final analysis is Orgonite is 100% legit. I mean, I showed you actually. And you can do these tests too, and you will see what happens. You'll see that when you put the Orgonite in, Orgone is the energy. Organite is what we make, when we form these different materials, the man-made, devices are Organite. Shungite is natural Organite. Now, but what we find is that the magnetic waves or electromagnetic waves vibrate these, and then, in summary, cause these to react like a sponge and then absorb the electromagnetic waves, electromagnetic radiation, etc. Okay, so and you can test this for yourself. Also, like I said, you can use different materials. I use the silver bar. I've used, you can use weird shit. I don't know, tape, anything to kind of test that out. So that's all I got for now.